Welcome back to another Purpose Served podcast episode. I'm your host, Daryl Wingfield. These last couple of weeks has been freaking nuts. But not really. It feels like, for me personally, man, I got really sick like 2.5 weeks ago. And it started with my asthma. I got like really bad asthma. Quick story time. But I played basketball for the first time in like a couple of weeks outside, and it was on a Thursday. The following Friday, my it triggered my asthma. So the night before, I had like a sore throat. As time went on, it was my freaking asthma. I couldn't breathe, and I didn't have no inhaler, and I didn't have no Advair, no asthma medicine at all. On some stupid shit, and then that Friday night, I had plans to go out, um, but I didn't. 1 second. Yeah, hello. Yeah, 40 minutes. All right, then I'm gonna be 30 then. All right, all right. So we're gonna get to the point here, but yeah, like I said, welcome back to another Purpose Served podcast episode. I'm your host Darren Wingfield, and as of 2 weeks ago, I got really sick to the point where I couldn't get out of bed. And what triggered all of this was my asthma at first. I was playing basketball on like a Thursday, and then going into, I believe, Friday, I couldn't get out of bed. And I had plans on going out that Friday night, but couldn't get out of bed. And then the following day, I went out to eat with my brother and my mom. And that very first morning when I got out of bed and I was in the shower, it was real hard for me to stand. You ever get like so sick that when you like starting to stand, you don't have like the energy to do it, and you just want to lay right back down? That's the like level I was at. I ended up going anyway, so we ended up going to some um, Korean spot in like on the outskirts of Philly, and that drive there was mad brutal. Sitting there was like mad brutal because I legit I felt crazy and I couldn't breathe. So after we leave there, um, I'm home. I'm laying down, and at that point it was over. I couldn't get out of bed, and it literally felt like I was gonna die. I was like taking them breaths that was like, and for those of you who have asthma, you already know once you get to that point, you at the point of no return. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't have, like I said, any asthma medicine at all. I was just low key thugging it out, and in a weird thought, I definitely felt as though I'm like, yo, I might check out of here. You know what I'm saying? If I don't do anything like about this, I know that the bull, um, Kevin Samuels just died. Like I want to say yesterday, 2 days ago. Um, they say that that was like from respiratory issues or a heart condition. I don't know. Uh, but yeah, that's just a random. I was about to say fun fact, but that's hella disrespectful. My condolences to him and his family. But yeah, but the next day, following that brutal ass Saturday, I ended up going to the hospital to see what was going on. I knew what was going on, but they sent me on my merry way, yo. I went in there and I left how I came in. Uh, they wrote me prescriptions for to get, a rescue inhaler and like these asthma steroid pills that was like freaking grimy, but ultimately that got me to where I needed to be. Now, this is the overarching big theme, you know, I want to say to start this podcast off is just that I really believe what got me to that point was in a sense, overworking myself and not giving my mind and my body the the proper rest that it needs. And for those of you that's watching, for those of you that's listening, this is very important if you are trying really hard and something is for some odd reason is not working, it's not giving, it's not pushing. The best thing that you should do is stop and reassess your situation and see where you are now to where you're trying to go and what you must do to get there in between. And I personally lost sight of that. I lost sight of that ridiculously, you know what I mean? And it feels as though within like the last month or so, me personally, I've been thinking too hard about everything, literally everything. And when you get to those points, I talked about that a while back with gathering mad knowledge versus taking action, and it got to be a healthy balance of both. And one, I'm leaning on one side, like you know, and one thing for me personally, I'm gonna be extremely transparent with you guys on my personal journey. You know what I mean? Um, Purpose served is not me. Um, Purpose served is something that I use to help me, but it's not necessarily me. Um, just like Elon Musk is not Tesla or freaking Jeff Bezos is not Amazon. They created it, but they're not it. You know. Um, but ultimately, the most important thing as well with this comes learning. You know what I mean? I think that or learning dead ass get overlooked. Of course, I think it definitely stems from school and the negative connotations towards school. Like, yo, when somebody mentions school, you like, man, fuck that. I hate school. But when it comes to anything that you're trying to get or that you're trying to acquire, it's a process, and sometimes there's a process of skill development. Um, Sometimes there's a process of building something. Sometimes there's a process of knowing what to do when the time comes. And that stuff comes with practice, that comes with repetition, and like I said, that comes with the biggest thing is learning. Learning how to do something, learning how to build something. Um, you wouldn't be able to get as far as you've done without learning being involved. I don't give a damn like what you're doing. If you know, for those of you that's in college, you know, learning is the thing that you are there to do. You know what I mean? Also to gain, you know, more independent experience to be able to, you know, be independent and be on your own. Act as an adult, you know, but that's a process in itself. Now, when in the realm of sports, going back to practice, right? And going back to the previous podcast where I talked about, you know, the vision, the destination, and the journey. This whole thing, right, with practice for me started off with the vision. And where the vision comes from is to, you know, getting even more detail than before is coming from a place of awe, coming from a place of wonder, coming from a place of curiosity. If you look at something and it amazes you or it catches you in awe, you're completely wrapped up in it. That means that this thing has your full attention. You're focused on it. You know what I mean? To the point where you're not noticing anything else that's happening or going on around you. Using myself as a prime example, something that I constantly talk about. So if you guys are new here, um, I'm a basketball player. You know, and what led me into playing basketball was the NBA season of 2008 2009 when LeBron won the MVP. The Lakers won the 2009 NBA championship against the Orlando Magic, and Derrick Rose got Rookie of the Year. You know what I mean? Old beat up Derrick Rose now. Well, he not old beat up. He's still balling um, in New York, I believe. But um, this is this is what ultimately led me into really start following basketball, start really loving basketball. Is that I would honestly watch Derrick Rose and Kobe Bryant play, and I remember specifically the All Star Weekend watching the Skills Challenge with Derrick Rose, and he did the double clutch dunk to finish it. It was just like, yo, oh man, this dude is nice. Like, yo, I want to be that good. And then watching, it was in Phoenix, Arizona. This is crazy how I'm recalling this, but it was in Phoenix, Arizona, and Kobe and Shaq that Sunday split the MVP, All Star MVP, and it kind of like rekindled their relationship after a real rocky situation with them two beefing like crazy. You know what I mean? Over the way they approached the game, ultimately speaking. You know what I mean? I got real personal, and Kobe snapped. You know what I mean? Shaq did his thing. That was an awesome All Star weekend. But just watching that and just being in awe of Kobe, and then watching, like I say all the time, the Lakers game, the late show games, man, at 10:30, and I got school at 7:30 the next morning. But I was going to get up at 6 o'clock no matter what, so I'm going to sleep at like 1:30. And getting up at like six on the dot. Kind of been an early bird for a minute, but also a night owl. And this 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 inspired me. This this had me keyed in. This is where my focus was starting to be at, and I started to lean into it. Now, this is also, I believe, the same year I told the story of my science teacher, you know, with our eighth grade career project, and the fool with his busted ass mustache told me that my chances of going to the NBA was slim to none. So choose something else. And I guess from authority figure, a limited seed was playing it, but also I say all the time how that also was a motivator for me to go after that. You know what I mean? Because I loved and I cared about it. And who was this dude to tell me that what I could not and could do? He hasn't even seen me play. At the time, I did suck, man. In the eighth grade, I definitely did suck. Kobe, high key ruined me, man. But this is what I was leading to with the whole theme of practice and learning. That willed me in. That awe, that curiosity. Seeing how fun it looked, seeing the crowd go crazy after this man make a clutch shot. You know what I mean? Or if he's away in a different arena, how mad people get. You know what I mean? When he hit a clutch bucket, that was like, you know what I mean? That would give me my mama face when I'm like, it's like nah. But ultimately, I wanted to do the moves that he was doing. Just so you guys could connect the dots real quick. I wanted to do the moves that he was doing. So the one thing that I used to talk that I seen him do over and over and over again that I felt like I can do was there was two moves. One wasn't realistic, one was. The unrealistic move is a turnaround fadeaway. So what a turnaround fadeaway is, for those of you that don't play basketball, is you got your back facing the basket, and most likely somebody's guarding you. And then after that, you either turn over your left shoulder or you turn over your right shoulder to shoot the ball with your back facing the basket. You know what I mean? So in basketball, generally speaking, this is a move for bigger players. Like, mind you, I'm 5'10". I'm not like 6'6", like Kobe was, or like 6'8", 6'9", like LeBron, or like 7'1", like Shaq. That I'm 5'10". But that was like the first move that I was trying to do, was like a turnaround fadeaway. And then the realistic move, which opened the floodgates to me starting to really learn the game, was the one dribble pull up. The one dribble pull up is self explanatory. You taking one dribble and then you pulling up to shoot the ball, and you can either go right or you can go left with this one dribble pull up. And that was the very, very first thing that I would work on, stopping on a dime, just going boom, one dribble as hard as I can, raising up, one dribble, and I would do this going to the left hand, one dribble pull up, and the key to a one dribble pull up, you know, just to inform you guys, is selling like you're going to the basket, selling like you're going in for a layup, and you taking one hard dribble and then you elevating to shoot the ball. That would throw the defender, off balance, and their momentum should be sending them towards the basket while you're stopping and popping. But of course, the higher you get and the more competitive it get, you can't pull it off every single time. You need counter moves because people, you know, defenders won't bite on a drive. They contest the one dribble pull up. So you can do a one dribble with the hesitation dribble to go to the opposite side if you're going to the left. I'm not going to get all the way into the dynamics of the game from one move to a counter move, but the reason being is just that there was a whole process that I had to go through. There was a whole learning curve that I had to go through in order for me to do what I seen and also reach my fullest potential that I thought I was capable of, that I knew that I was capable of, you know, and through that, you know, the goal and the aspiration was, in the vision was to be able to, score 20 points. You know what I mean? If I could score 20, 30 was a stretch. If I get to 30, that'd be lit. You know what I mean? But to just 20 double digits, you know what I mean? That was the vision. You know what I mean? And to play basketball, I want to say no. Scoring was the destination. You know what I mean? That's where I wanted to get to, objectively speaking. I didn't really care about winning. I didn't care about none of that. Only thing I cared about was scoring. So every Sunday we would have this league, me and my brother, JKNBA, since I didn't um, play for like my high school or anything, and I was getting cut. But specifically, my sophomore year, I would look forward to these Sundays religiously, man, like for real, like because that's when our game days was, man. That was like my whole week, Monday through Friday. I would try not to get in trouble in school and all of that. With that in mind, like I got a game Sunday. You know what I mean? Knowing that the day before I was going to be at the Y all day Saturday, like thinking about this game, thinking about what happened last week, and just real excited and real pumped up. You know what I mean? To be hooping first thing in the morning, and I was very inconsistent. That my sophomore year, I was very inconsistent, but there was a drastic increase in my skill, and I wouldn't say my knowledge in the game, but just my skill, my abilities. I didn't necessarily understand the game, but as long as I got like 10 shots, I was cool with that. As long as I had like 15 points and it was over double digits, I was cool with that, man. But if I had 8, 5, 2, I was I was fucking heated, man. Like I was mad. Like I would be really, really pissed off. I wouldn't talk in on a car ride on the way home, and that would carry over high key all week. It would carry over on the court where I would have this mentality of I gotta do better. I can't wait to do better. I can't believe I played that trash. That would eat away at me, man. But then eventually, as time went on, I was able to score, 20 easily, 25 easily, and get 30 here and there. Now, at this point, we're talking about my senior year. Now, when I started learning the game, was something that I talked about on the previous podcast. At some point, talking about adjustment was when I was playing in Girona, Spain, and at that point, I was tired of being on the court and just, you know, getting by. You know what I mean? I really wanted to know what was going on. I didn't want to score just to score, make a good play just to make a good play. I really wanted to know what was going on. And the one thing that I learned from the coaches there, and is studying the game, knowing the game, studying the game, like I was saying, and knowing the game, knowing where people should be, and knowing the dynamics of of the game of basketball, the runs that happens, and all of that. And at first, I didn't even know where to start, but the best place to start was is, is the situation that I was currently in, and nowhere else. You know, I had this notebook, this blue notebook that I still use to this day, where I used to journal my thoughts. Um, Weirdly enough, not weirdly enough, but this book, high key, getting sidetracked a little bit, helped me get to where I needed to go. I went to Girona, Spain in the year 2017. 2015, I got in trouble with the law. I got arrested. There were warrants out for my arrest, and I dropped out of college after being in college for that was going on my third year. So I did 2.5 years, not even like 2 and 2 months, 2 years and like 2 months into my junior year semester, fall semester, and I ended up dropping out. You know what I mean? To smoke mad weed and get mad drunk every single day. To be quite honest, but um, after I got in trouble with the law, a couple months went by, and just dwelling on what I wanted to do. And I wanted to play overseas basketball. I didn't see myself doing anything else, Kind of drastic at, I was 20 going on 21 at the time. And then, mind you, 2 years later, with me being 22 in this little stupid blue notebook, I don't know why I said stupid, but in this blue notebook, I could see my affirmations that I had, where it was just like, play in Spain, or play overseas for a couple of months. Then it got more specific to play in Spain, and you know little stuff like that. And then it was like practice, do push-ups, do sit-ups, BS like that, and that started gearing my mind towards that intention of playing overseas basketball. And then once I got there, what I mean, before that point, it was mad cool to think of that idea, whip it up, and then execute on it, and then it actually happens. The hard thing is when you actually get in those moments that you prayed for, that you prepared for, and Mike Tyson said it best, man. You could plan for a fight, but all that goes out the window once you get punched in your mouth. You know what I'm saying? Then you're in a different ball game. A lot of it, comes from your preparation and your instincts and what you know in that given moment. And my preparation and my instincts for that moment was quite shitty, to be quite honest. And I realized that in order for me to prosper here, I had to study the game. I had to learn the game. There was no avoiding that. I was going to wake up and all of a sudden know the plays. Tell a story all the time when I had the freaking ball kicked at me by my coach for me not understanding the plays, and that really affected me. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, dag, like, you know what I mean? What was that for? And then really, then thinking back and understanding what it was for, it was my lack of preparation, my lack of readiness, for that moment to be able to have a fluid practice and everything. And also, my coach was trying to get the best out of me, you know. And this turned into me devouring film within like the next, that was 2017. So the one thing I got really, really good at is being a student of the game, learning why certain plays are being run, uh, why certain things happen. How did this person get this shot off? How did this defensive scheme work for this offense and all of that? And it started looking at basketball like a game of chess. You know what I mean? But going back from that was, now we're talking 2019, around the time where I'm playing in Puerto Rico and I'm playing in all of these different places. and I'm using these mechanisms. I'm watching my own film, watching when I'm missing, watching when I make shots. I'm documenting it down, and I'm looking so timestamps and all, so I could go back to it and see the exact situations of what was popping off, and also knowing what I was thinking in those exact moments, and then I would go and practice them on the court. You know what I mean? To be, like I said, more prepared the next time around when these situations come. I wasn't doing that when I was 14, 15, 16 years old. But by the time I turned 23, 24, going back to the process, there was a process that I had to learn in order for me to, wow, my sound is going to be crazy. It's probably going to sound kind of, uh, next time, Daryl, you got to pay attention. You got to pay attention. But ultimately, you guys, you don't avoid learning. It's very, very, very overlooked and is so fucking important, yo. Ignorance is bliss, man, and it is like true, man. The more you don't know, the more you're not responsible of. You know what I mean? If you didn't know, how can you possibly be responsible for it? You know what I mean? But the more you do know, the more responsible that you get. So, what knowledge do y'all hold that y'all not being responsible for? You know, for me, that's what led to me being really, really stagnant. Is for me not applying the knowledge that I gathered and hesitancy towards taking action with the knowledge that I have, because what comes with, I guess, knowing a lot of different things is just that it can make you extremely indecisive knowing that you can take this route and know the cause and effect of taking this route, or you can do this thing, but this is what's going to come with this thing, and that's where my brain has been at, you know what I mean? And especially in a realm that I'm dwelling in with, health and wellness and personal development. It's such a freaking broad scope, and it's not a one shoe fits all for this. You know what I mean? And it's so many people in so many different spaces that I feel as though it goes beyond nutrition. It goes beyond fitness. It honestly is to the core of your well being. And through Grace, somebody that I haven't mentioned on this podcast in a while, um, I've been literally practicing mindfulness with Grace. I've been practicing meditation with Grace. I've been practicing journaling with Grace, and I've been practicing being vulnerable in these practices, which is something that, you know, I went to her last year. I think around this time. It's been like a little over a year, with the intention of decluttering, my mind, because it felt like it was so much going on and it was so much I'm just trying to do and not enough time in a day. And it felt as though um, she can help me out with that, with the work that she does, you know what I mean? Outside of her social work, but, with her own personal practices, who was also on this podcast, which I'm going to wheel her in, as a matter of fact, to get her right back on here one of these days. And speaking of that, I also have another returning guest coming back really, really soon to drop some gems. But to everybody that's been involved in this element of Purpose Served, which is the podcast, the Purpose Served podcast, they're doing magnificent things, man. Still, even to this day, man. And you got people that had professional, like a NBA career, that's personal trainers, that does social work, that is involved in, journalism and culture for, you know, black people, African Americans, me, and any of you that's listening that's black or watching this that's black. And I'm talking about Ev. Shout out to Ev, man. Ev hasn't been on the podcast or anything since 2020. He was on our OG early episodes, but shout out to him. And also shout out to the artists that was on here, whether it was through music or painting and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Shout out to Aqua, shout out to Dan, Cassandra, beautiful art, Shahida, beautiful art. And I've been thinking in my head about making projects wrapped around these people and the element of what they do and looking at the process of how they do it, because I really do believe that expression is key to human experience. And if you become a shell of yourself and start to box yourself in, man, that's a key way to just start destroying your well-being, unless you're introverted and you don't feel comfortable doing that. But in some given way, man, you have to contribute to society. And I believe that the purpose served narrative is to contribute in a way where you're innovating the human experience or you're improving it. You know what I mean? That's constantly going on. And it's so weird how our brain works, man, and how we view things and how we see things, right? We can't possibly hear all the sounds that's out there in the universe in our reality. It's only the what we can perceive in our sound range. We can't see everything that's out there in the universe to see, but only that's within our lens of color and brightness. Like, you can't see X-ray unless it's through a certain machine that can picture it in that type of light. You know what I mean? Like, for example, think of it like this, on some real crazy shit. If you're watching this, and I'm going to paint the picture for those that's listening as well, it's 10 o'clock in the morning on a freaking Saturday in New Jersey, and it's raining. It's raining quite hard right now. And it's a cloudy day. In a different place, it's nighttime. You can see the stars lit up and all of that. But at the same time, those stars and everything is still being projected the same way right here, right now. You know what I mean? It's just the angle of the sun and everything that makes it seem like that is not the case. And the only reason why I'm saying this, that a lot of facts go beyond our realm of understanding. And it's not even in a matter of opinion, but how your consciousness choose to perceive these things. We are mad powerful beyond belief. I swear to God. You know what I mean? And this is something that I have to challenge myself to really believe, you know what I mean? And move accordingly to get the best out of myself. That's not always a freaking healthy way to go about doing things. You know what I mean? The simplest thing to do is to literally experience life for what it is. But you can't do that when you got fucking bills rolling in and you got a freaking car note and you got rent that's due. You can't do that. You know what I mean? Not anytime that you want. But you can prepare yourself to put yourself in that position over time by following the process laid out through something that inspires you through that vision that we talked about. And then create that destination and use the journey to get to the destination and go from this thing that's in your head, these emotions that you feel, to get to that point. There's a dude that I seen, I think his name was David Hawkins. Interesting stuff, people. But there was I don't know, like a chart of freaking consciousness. And he looked at the emotions that came from all the way from enlightenment all the way down to the lower levels of hate and even hate, grief, love, peace, joy. They're all ranging from enlightenment to like sadness, and always was down there. You know what I mean? And it was like a thing from power, and that was the top level, and force. Now, he compared this scale to water. How he compared the scale of water? He said it's not a matter of right and wrong or good and bad. You can't say that ice isn't water. You can't say that steam isn't water. It's all water, but just at different temperatures. And that's kind of like how emotions are. Emotions are simply like water with different temperatures. You know what I mean? Depending on what range that it is. You know what I mean? And he broke it down like real technical too, and just talking about at 32 degrees that you got water that starts freezing, and 200 something you have water that starts boiling, but it changes the state of the water, but it don't change the water itself. The water is still there. Steam can't be steam without water, and ice can't be ice without water. It needs that in order to be that thing. You know what I mean? So keep that in mind when you're going about feeling things through, and also thinking things through. To be quite honest, essentially you are that water in yourself. You know, and I thank you guys for also tuning in to another Purpose Served podcast episode. This is the end of it. Um, I will be putting out a podcast episode tomorrow as well for Mother's Day, for all the mothers that's out there that's doing a thing. Shout out to my mom. Shout out to my stepmom. Shout out to the moms that took care of me when I was a road warrior and I didn't really have no place to stay, man. To Miss Tara and to Mrs. Enoch, I appreciate y'all greatly. And Miss Olivia, too. Your birthday just passed. Many blessings to you and love you greatly, seriously. Um, Shout out to the Hayes brothers that I got in mad trouble with throughout the years, but also who helped me be the man that I am right now, you know. But all in all, I thank you guys, and just some food for thought. There's a lot of things that's going on around you, but it's always about where your focus and your intention is at. You won't see anything else, you know. So if your mindset is focused on stressful situations, it will be stressful. If your mind is focused on solutions, you will find a solution. And have faith and truly trust the process of what's going on. That's the key thing, man. Is trust. Trust yourself. Most importantly, you know, more than it is people and systems. You're more than capable. Can't stress that more than enough. I'm sitting here rambling, but yeah, that's the end of it. Last but not least, deuces, meatheads, deuces.